And welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a brand new podcast. Right now, we're calling it the Liga 2 Report. We may come up with a more creative name at some point in the near future. But I want to introduce everybody in Benfica Nation to the host of this show. He's joining me here tonight. This is Geoff Schulz joining us from the West Coast. Well, kind of the West Coast. You're more inland, right, Geoff?
Yeah, a lot
But
closer to the
out
West
west,
Coast than
yeah,
Massachusetts. So.
yeah, exactly. He's out in Washington State, a big Benfica fan. Geoff, welcome to the channel, and thank you for bringing this project to my attention and bringing this idea to me. I really am excited about this, and I think this fills a gap that I have in my own programming. So this becomes the bridge between the Liga 3 content and the Benfica first team content, and I'm really excited to have you on board here. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me. I'm glad we had a chance to kind of talk through some of this. For the last number. I mean, you've been doing this 9 seasons now, and I think
9 seasons. Yeah, it's been
I'm
about
probably
7 years of real time, but
yeah, first 20 or 30 episodes when I started kind of listening to where you were at, and
mhm,
especially as we got into COVID and some of those times, we're trying to find good
yeah,
content, to keep up with Benfica, especially out
exactly.
here in Portuguese football Siberia that is Eastern Washington. I mean,
Yeah,
there's just not a lot of
yeah,
there's there's not, especially out here, and I'm out in a rural area here. I was actually
mhm,
born in this area. I guess maybe just kind of give you a little bit of my background. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, a name like Geoff Schultz does not ring as a as a traditional Portuguese name. I was born here in Eastern Washington, but I moved to the Central Valley of California when I was in middle school, and then went through high
okay,
school there. My best friend was a son of Portuguese immigrants,
mhm,
and Azorian, and so I kind of started hanging out with them, and my and he and I were really good, best friends. And then, like he likes to say, I was until I married his sister. And so no, we're still good friends. But my father-in-law was a huge Benfica. He was
mhm,
he immigrated to this country in the early '80s. Didn't speak much English,
mhm,
but I always had a passion for sports in general, and
mhm,
it was a way that he and I really kind of connected. And I came to soccer really as a teenager and in my early 20s to enjoying it, but being part of the community, and I was very active in the Portuguese community, through my wife's family and all that, and Benfica was just a part of that, partially
mhm.
because it was something my father and I got to bond over, but also it was a good way for to me to get sideways with a bunch of my friends that were mostly sportingistas and
Oh, wow.
whatnot. So no, it was a lot of fun. No, got a lot of good friends that are still Benfiquistas. We
Mhm.
even moving back here, we all got a chance to get together in Santa Clara when they played Chivas a couple of years
Oh,
ago, and
wow,
so
yeah, I
it's
remember.
really been a good touch point to to my friends and to the Portuguese community. And I'd say in 2018, when my wife and I went to Lisbon for my 40th birthday, and my in-laws met me there, and we went to a game at Stadio de Luz. Um, I mean, if it wasn't over already, it was over at that point. And
Mhm,
that's
yeah,
that's when I got back home and said, okay, where do I have to go to find the games? What content can I find out there to listen
mhm,
to? Because at that point it was, I kind of taken a gap from really being able to pay attention, but now I was all in. So
mhm,
that's kind of how got to be where we're at today. And the idea for this, is in other sports. I've also been very interested in a lot of youth development, and I used to, I've played a lot of fantasy football and such. And at one
mhm.
time, I was helping put together, some of these, development, dynasty leagues and things that look back into college and other things. And that portion of it, I've always just kind of enjoyed. And so, um, with Benfica having a B team and a whole youth academy and all that, I think there was a nice place to be able to go a little bit deeper into, maybe we touch on bits and pieces of it, through the
Yeah,
main podcast and other podcasts out there, but maybe we can dive in a little bit deeper. And then also, like you mentioned, this kind of gap between, Liga Tres and the
yeah,
Primeira Liga, a place where there's really some cool things going on, some historic
yeah,
clubs that are playing there now, and then the
mhm,
movement up and down. Every year you're going to get at least 4 different clubs that you don't see, and maybe upwards
right.
of 6, and really to see that movement and what's happening with some of these. So that was kind of the reason I brought it to you, and
Mhm,
yeah, we'll give it a shot here and see
yeah.
if it resounds with other people.
Yeah, and it is great because also, having done the Liga 3 show for now, this is the 5th season. I can't believe it's the 5th season I've been doing it. It feels like it's 2 or 3, but It's there's clubs that I got really into, and then they got promoted and they went on. Lusitania La Rosa is one I really fell head over heels for when they were in the Liga 3. The first year they were there, they were only there for 2 seasons. The first year they just missed promotion. The second year they made it, and then now get to follow them a little bit closer through you will be great too. And then there's teams that drop down, and I've always tried to keep an eye at, especially at the bottom of the Liga 2, knowing to see who might be coming down. And like this year in the Liga 3, we have Passos Ferreira, who's a massive club, in especially compared to the other clubs at that level, along with Belenenses, and these are really historic clubs. And now in the Liga 2, Academica is up. Amarante are the surprise champions last year in Liga 3, so I can take the storylines from there. Like, it's exciting for me seeing those storylines, but like you said, there's also the big clubs that have been kind of stuck in this second division for a while now, and there's the relegated teams from the first division as well that most of us know. As the score scrolls on the bottom, Tondela's a name that was a fixture in the first division for a while. And then the B teams add another. There's not too many leagues in the world like this, because you also
Yeah.
have the B teams mixed in, which add another layer.
No, and that's the really interesting part about this too. I think from the Liga Two in Portugal is that, yeah, you've got the B teams that are going to be made up of mostly kids under 21. You have a few that hang around that they're able to mentor some of those younger ones, but they're going up against guys in their 30s. And as I'm looking through guys who are scoring, and we got guys who are playing into their 40s
Yeah,
in Liga Two. So guys are literally twice the age of some of these B team players that are there to compete and they're to win matches, but their ultimate goal is to make their way up to the first team. So as we'll get through some of the results of what's going on, but you've got B teams going in different directions. But I
yeah,
think the most important part, especially for the big three, is keep those B teams in Liga Two. Not that there's
yeah,
anything wrong with them being down at Liga Three, but being with that competition level at Liga Two, so that the teams really get a chance to analyze those guys. But yeah, so I think as we talk about some of those teams that have gone up and down, maybe just kind of recap last season where we got to where
yeah.
the teams that are playing this year. So we lost the two teams that moved down out of Liga 3. Actually, kind of interesting. Oliveirense moved down, but their stadium is very much featuring. It's multiple teams have had to use theirs as their home pitch, and I mean we'll get
Yeah,
into some of that why that is, and I'm still confused
yeah,
as to why some of that is. And then you mentioned Pasta Ferreira, and yeah, again, most of the time that I've been following Primeira Liga, they've been either there or they've gone down and come right
and
back
come
up.
right back up. Yeah.
Yeah, bounce straight back down to Liga. I think they spent 1 year in Liga Two and then dropped
Yeah,
down. Got
and they
relegated.
spent time. They played in a preliminary Champions League,
Right.
a decade and a half ago. So
Yeah. No, so just kind of wild to see that kind of movement. But on the other end though, the teams that moved up that we lost out of the other direction, Maritimo, who again
mhm,
I visited Madeira. I
mhm,
have a soft spot for Maritimo as well, and
mhm.
it's too bad that this will be my first year hosting this. I have no teams from the islands, from the
Yeah,
Azores or Madeira, but you know what? They all moved up to the Primeira Liga. I'm good with that.
yeah,
We'll wait. I don't. It'll be quite a while before anybody moves clear up. From the fourth division through the third up to the second. I don't know
right,
that we'll see
right.
that again. But yeah, the next time we see teams from the islands are probably because they've been relegated, but they seem to we can get deep into some of that at some point. But
Hmm.
Maritimo at least is having a real good run in the Primeira Liga
Yeah,
to start the season. Santa Clara
yeah,
needs to get some things figured out in order to keep the Azores represented in the
yeah,
first league. But they keep seeming to hold on. But then the ones that came down, AVS and the whole mess that is that. We can get into that.
yeah, yeah. I've been opinionated about that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's sort of a short stop, and then maybe you don't even have to deal with them next year. I don't know.
Hmm.
Who knows how long they even hold on as a club.
I'm
I mean,
surprised. I went on the record. I didn't think they would even put a team on the pitch this year.
yeah,
I thought they were
no,
going to go the way of the others like them, but
yeah, no, just kind of wild. And then Tondela, coming down from the Primeira Liga, they seem like they're going to be, at least middle of the pack, and I don't know that they're in near the issue of some of the others, but but again, then you mentioned the ones coming up from Liga Tres. Amarante is a great story, but the one that of course we're all talking about right now is Academica de Coimbra,
yeah,
and that's great. I think Coimbra is an amazing city, a beautiful stadium, and for them to have been gone, from the Primeira Liga, much less from Liga Two, it's great to see them back in and competing, and they've got a great fan base and whatnot. So seeing them there and really making some noise, I think is great. And then some of the União de Leiria and seeing them kind of solidifying there. They got a little bit of work to do right now. They're having a little bit of a rough start, but really excited to see some of these historic teams from really beautiful and historic areas of Portugal, and being able to stabilize and be in there and hang on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's really interesting about this group, again, we talked about the second league, but we actually there's 4 Taça de Portugal titles that are represented in this group.
Yeah.
Some of them were very, very long time ago, but Académica won 2 early on. Torreense, the current
the holders,
the cup holder, which then brings a whole new dynamic with how
you get to talk about European nights in the second division this year.
Yeah. And they were just a couple of bounces away from winning the Super Taça as well. But here they are. They're struggling a bit. A little bit of a false start maybe to get the season started, but they didn't go out and spend a whole bunch of money to chase Europe. They're a couple of movements here and there, but they seem like they just kind of are going at this pragmatically, which makes the most sense. And I hope that they ultimately do what they can in Europe, but really focus on stabilizing themselves domestically. And then Leixões, I think, is another historic club that just love being able to see them do some things. And again, I mean, Leiria and Leixões being the first 2 that Benfica B played, and we'll get into some of that. Neither one of them able to get the win there, but I think saw some interesting things, and I think they're going to stabilize over the course of the season and be right there. But anyway, just a lot of fun to see some of these clubs that have got a lot of history and be able to compete. So again, so when we talked about this project, I think we're going to spend a good chunk of time talking about Benfica B. I don't want this to be strictly a Benfica based podcast, and any suggestions and questions out there that people want us to address. I mean, we're willing to take this project wherever, but I think with this being part of the Mr. Benfica network, let's really kind of dive deep into there. So if you want to, we can jump right into where Benfica B is at.
Let's go into it there. So far 2 victories on the trot, right? Yeah, 2 victories. Plus 2 goal difference. Great. It's a great start for them.
No, absolutely.
A youth team.
Yeah, I wouldn't call either of these dominant performances, but and 2 completely different matches, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Coach Nelson Verissimo, which we all should be very familiar with, Mr. It is what it is, but I think he's the right man.
Absolutely. This is his role. This is what he's meant to do. Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't care what the situation is. I do not want to see him, on the touchline for the main squad again.
No.
This is where he belongs in development.
Yeah, I agree.
And seeing him coach those kids and the kind of respect that he demands, from them and the development, I think that's where he needs to be. It's a huge stabilizing force through all of the craziness that we've had in and out of that top spot. This is where he needs to be. Let's we've screwed a lot of things up. Let's not screw that up, right? So again, so from match day 1 to match day 2, 4 lineup changes, and most of them have to do with reinforcing the main squad, right?
Yeah.
3/4 of that back line, Benjaki, Gabriel Indio in the center, and Jose Neto on the left, all started that first match, all with the first team in some form. Haven't really seen them on the pitch, when it matters a whole lot, outside of Jose Neto, who actually looked pretty good. He
looked good against Hearts,
Against Hearts, I think there may be a player there, and and again, there's probably going to be some crossover talk from the first team. I'm not real big on Samuel Dahl, so I think there's an opening there, right? There's an opportunity to earn some playing time. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think Samuel Dahl is a glaring spot where I think everyone seems to think we can do better. I think he's serviceable, but to be the out and out, starting left back week in, week out, I don't think he quite has proven to be that guy. And it's always exciting when you get a kid from the academy coming through, and again, Jeanette at what's it called, Tynecastle in in Scotland against Hearts. He started a little rocky, but he recovered and had
Right.
himself a really nice performance there in the Europa League, no
Right.
less.
No, absolutely. So I guess if we jump into match day one, but back on Monday the 10th at Benfica campus there at
Hmm.
Seixal against Leixões. So to finish up match day one, again the Liga 2 Player of the Week per SOFA scores rating was goalkeeper Diogo Ferreira. He
Hmm.
kept a clean sheet at 5 saves and on 23 Leixões shots. I mean, he was under pressure for a lot of that match, primarily because Benfica took the lead early.
Hmm.
Again, they controlled most of the first half. They put the urgency on Leixões after Francisco Net, which is what Sport TV seems to be calling him. His shirt says Bernards.
Yeah,
Benfica TV
that's
calls
what
him
the apps
Bernards.
say too.
I'm calling him Bernards. So I mean,
Yeah,
what if there's some confusion there? I'll try and go back and forth. But his shirt says Bernards. The team calls him
yeah,
Bernards. He has 8 names. That's the one he's picking to be called by.
yeah.
So we're gonna go with that. But just a beautiful goal. Blasted one in the lower left corner. He was just outside the box. Coming in on the left flank, a really nice assist from Tiago Freitas on a switch from the right hand side, but really just took control of that match with that early goal. And then there were really good defensive efforts throughout the rest of the match from both Fonseca, João Fonseca, the captain center back, 22-year-old. Again, not a guy I think we'll see with the first team. He
Right,
seems to be more of that stabilizing player there, which is going to be important as we see a lot of the guys moving out of that back
right.
line.
Yeah,
And then Diogo Ferreira, and then saw it out to 1-0. We didn't get to see a lot from Gabriel Índio, who started this
right. Who's a
match.
big name because the big transfer that's come in.
Right. So, and with what they've spent on him, with what he's
Yeah,
getting paid, I mean, probably the most expensive and the highest paid player in the league.
right.
It's hard not to see him, but he went down hard on his elbow. He plays with a lot of, with a lot of urgency, with a lot of confidence. But it's something that is maybe going to become an issue. But we'll talk. I think we'll dive deeper into him a little
Yeah,
later here as we try to unpack where he's going to be and his effect on this squad. But again, second half they remained well organized. They kept their shape well. In this match, they were playing in the 4-2-3-1. Really to try and match what's happening at the first team. They had to make some changes in match day 2, but again, stayed well organized, and Leixões was putting plenty of pressure on. But again, playing physical, moving players off the ball, kept that match level, held on to the clean sheet, picked up 3 points to move on to match day 2. So from there, we move on to match day 2. Now away to União de Leiria, the Estádio Magalhães Pessoa.
yeah.
Great
Beautiful
stadium. Yeah, great to be able to watch the matches being played there. Early one for me, 6 a.m. West Coast start, but
Yeah.
up and everyone's still asleep, so I got to concentrate on this one as much as I could. So now we move to a 4-3-3 just out of necessity, right? Miguel Figueiredo went up. And again, I apologize for my pronunciation. Obviously,
No, that was
Portuguese
good.
is my
Figueiredo,
first
that was
language.
good. Yeah.
I
No, that
do the
was
best
good.
I can, but he's basically kind of moved up to the first team at this point, and that left really a hole in that midfield that we
Yeah.
couldn't really fill. So again, moving to more of that 4-3-3. So we'll go through the lineups on this one. Again, in goal, Diogo Ferreira. Across the back, João Capucho, Rui Silva, and captain João Fonseca and Duarte Soares. 3 changes across that back line. But again, they held up pretty well, all things considered. In that midfield, Rafael Quintas, Nuno Felix, and Tiago Freitas. Quintas didn't play in that first match, but he was basically the sub in for Figueiredo. And then your 3 across the front, Gonçalo Moreira, Anísio Cabral, and Bernardes. So again, they came out organized, disciplined, solid start to the match, and they controlled possession, and they were under very little pressure for that first quarter of an hour. Bernardes continues. He looks really dangerous and has a great first touch, good quickness, good speed. Again, undersized guy, but really kind of looks in a lot of ways like Prestiani. We'll kind of sort of talk about that too. He might end up, being redundant with some of the things that we have, but we obviously have a bit of a pipeline at that position, which is cool, which is great. But yeah, it's interesting. The negative I'm going to pull from this, and Anísio Cabral, I'm not sure what's happened, but he looked very wasteful with the ball. Had some really poor touches. They were moving the ball well in the box, and one play, played to him where he was going to have to do something with it, and just basically tripped over the ball and worked it out. He just looks kind of lazy and disinterested, and I don't know. I mean, again, it's a position that a lot of times, if he's high pressing, he does work in the high press, but if he's not actively called on to do something, he's just kind of standing around, and I'm concerned. So
Yeah, it's a position where, and I don't know the breakdown of how often he trains on the first team and how often he trains
right,
with this group, and in that position, that can really lead to a lack of familiarity with his teammates, or just being out of sync, like you said, which is in your notes that he was out of sync. Any disinterested is probably how he's feeling because he's this close to being in the first team, and we just sold a striker,
right.
so naturally he's everybody's idea to be penciled in as the next guy in line. And they're sending him down to get minutes, which is important. But if he doesn't have the continuity of working with these guys day in and day out, it can be difficult, especially for a striker, because you rely so much more on your teammates than maybe somebody in a different position might.
I have it in the notes later, but it's probably just a good time to mention it. Particularly from without having Ben Jockey on the field. And again, we saw that with the first team when they were kind of being subbed in together.
Yeah,
But from match day 1 to match day 2, and he wasn't great match day 1. Match day 2, there was just something missing. I think he's going to have to get over that. I mean, right?
yeah.
We're going to have to figure out how we light a fire there. But early in the season, but there's just something going on there that just
Something to
really
watch for sure.
want to see pick. Especially he's got some guys around him that are just full of fire, right? And they're out there trying to prove something, trying to earn their spot, and he just doesn't look like he's coming with that same energy. So we'll see what happens there. But we get to the 25th minute, and it's Bernard's again. We make it happen. There's a corner kick, comes clear across to his left side. He makes a defender miss, has a beautiful back heel pass over to João Capucho, who sends it into the center where João Fonseca is right there making a run to slot one away. Taken down, very clear penalty, and Benfica steps up. It's Gonçalo Moreira, the forward, steps up, fires really confidently, upper left corner. Nobody's getting to that. I don't care what keeper it is in the world, not getting to that. He gets his first goal at of the season, puts Benfica up 1-0. The 25-year-old Austrian keeper in this game for Leiria, Odenal, I think he played a fantastic match. He ends up giving up 2 penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he really managed, defensively and kept us out of the back of the net. But just nobody was getting to that, and just really nice to see that kind of confidence from a young kid. 31st minute, Leiria captain, 30-year-old Juan Munoz from Spain. He gets on the end of a cross inside the 8-yard box. Cross from 29-year-old Spanish countryman Pablo Fernandez, immediately equalized. Again, I think there was lack of communication, lack of unity, lack of knowing really what's going on amongst that defense. And I went back and watched the replay 3 or 4 times last night too. I mean, it looks like they're trying to get things set up, and as they're getting set up, Munoz just makes a run. He's lost, and he gets it inside the 8. Nothing's going to happen. Diogo's not going to get to that one. Mm-hmm. Again, either side of halftime, Ferrer makes some great saves, smart decisions off the corner, free kick just outside the box. Keeps the match level, and so we're 1-1 going into about the last quarter of an hour. So probably the controversy of the game, here in the 79th minute, Olivio Tomé, who was midfielder, came in for Benfica, came in for Tiago Freitas. Again, we get one view in Liga 2, but they're going to run VAR. So one view, appears that he's maybe tripped or stepped on. They take a good 5 minutes to look at it. It was called a penalty on the field by Flavio Jesus. Mm-hmm. It's held up. Again, Moreira steps up now in the 84th minute. This time he goes to the right. He gets Odenal going the wrong direction, and now Benfica's up 2-1. Mm-hmm. Now, again, I mean, Benfica just settles in, plays smart, and the 86th minute, Leiria has a clear chance. But cross into the box is headed wide. That probably should have been 2-2, but outside of that, Benfica really just shut it down. 7 minutes of stoppage time after all. The VAR looks at the one angle that we all knew what it was going to be. It's like, So anyway, a lot of physicality, a lot of energy out of this team. Snuffed out any scoring chances for Leiria. Benfica sees it out 2-1, and again 6 points.
You can't ask for more.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's
exactly. It is what it is.
That's right. It is what it is. So again, my thoughts on the first 2 matches as they are: 2 wins, 6 points. It's great. The general calm and confidence from this squad and the talent of this youth is promising, especially compared to what we're seeing from our neighbors from the north and their B team. But really, just look confident. They're poised. I don't think there's a João Felix or a João Neves on this team.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong. I really like some of these kids up front. I don't know that they're going to have that type of quality. But again, some pieces that could fill some roles on the first team or add depth as we get deeper into the season. And if we make a deep Europa League run with the main team, that these guys can fill some holes.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Mauricio left us a comment here on screen, so I'm going to read it. He's interested in the development of Cabral up top. Hasn't been his best yet. Portugal needs young striker at this position. We can't seem to develop. This is across all the clubs, and he says the same with Nel from Sporting B last year to this year. So,
right.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the development of Cabral? I know you kind of already got into it with Anizio, but
no, it feels, and again, this is a new project for me. Get them, and really my access to watching some of these games is a little bit new to outside of the 2-minute burst, and that I'm going to try and watch, especially the Benfica B matches. Try and watch every minute of it, and as many of the others as I can. I do have 3 kids and a family and a job that I'll have to keep to as well. But where I can, especially those early morning matches, to watch that. But I think Maurice is 100% correct. Song has not really developed a striker since Paletta. I mean, how far back do we have to go to somebody that we really feel comfortable that tournament after tournament we're going to feed up front?
That's why there's a 41-year-old there still.
Right. I mean,
that's the issue nobody addresses. It's like, you can get mad at him for sticking around, but
But I mean, he's our best option up front to put the ball in the back of the net. Not his natural position, and he's well past his prime. But what else are we going to do? And exactly. So I Cabral is going to definitely have to step some things up if he wants to be that person. But first let's see if we can get him up to the first team and actually contribute.
Yeah.
Because it's not exactly like we've had since. And I think, I mentioned here later too, guys that have been able to be consistent strikers for Benfica for more than a year since Jonas, right? I mean, it's, we get a flash in the pan and we sell them, and I mean, great. But, we've also had a whole bunch of, I don't know. I mean, Pavlidis is doing some great things right now. Let's see if he stays, and let's see if he can keep it on for the entirety of the season. But,
yeah. And a lot of pressure was put on Anizio Cabral on day one. And, what he's shown he can do in the first team is get on the end of a delivery, and he's very good in the air. With all his goals have all been headers. So, there probably are glaring other parts of his game that need work that we're not really paying attention to, because he's come off the bench, and he's scored goals with his head. So,
I think that's a great point too, because when he's come in and he's scored, and we're like, he's going to score every time that he plays.
Right.
He's been like, in NFL, you compare to like a change of pace back, right? You've got that guy that's just, been in there pounding, and then you get somebody that can get out in space. That's, again, we haven't had someone who's been super, dangerous, in the box, in the air, consistently. So you bring him in, he does something different, and it just takes, a set piece and some guys getting a little bit lost or not knowing what to do. And I mean, that's great. And if that's what he can be with the first team, I would take that. But we would have to, we're going to have to build space for him, and he's going to have to be willing with that role. I think he's a guy who's going to want to be a 90-minute striker. I don't.
Yeah, of course.
Who wouldn't, right? So, so just kind of go, as we go on through the season with Benfica B, I mean, who are some of the players to watch? And we've talked about it, but I think at this point we can ask, does Benfica have their long-term, their backup goalie in Diogo Ferreira? I think we're going to go to the market. We're going to find a veteran number 2, but a guy that's 6'3", strong to the ball, plays well with his hands and feet, plays great long balls out of the back, and he's strong. And to me, he looks much more confident and capable than Suarez did at his age, or even 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see how that continues to go. But if we can offload Trubin, if we can get a relatively inexpensive guy in his late 30s, somebody that will be a good mentor to Suarez. And
exactly. That's what I'm looking for.
But we've got that next guy to step in if there's an injury, long term or whatever. Suarez has a huge year, and we sell him. We've got somebody that I think to step in.
Yeah.
If he continues to play like this.
And I think he's a big reason why we let André Gomes go on a permanent. I think
not in a broken leg. probably.
The broken leg had a lot to do with it too. But at this point, why we didn't keep both of these young goalkeepers is because we had this one coming in through the pipeline that many are rating better than the one we let go. So that's an upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we've talked about Bernard from Seixal. Again,
Hmm.
he's a smaller winger. I kind of like him to a poor man's Prestiani.
Hmm.
He may find a home in the rotation if Shelter is eventually, and maybe even Prestiani sold. So
Hmm.
I think there may be a place there. He looks almost natural as a left winger. So there's time to let him continue to develop here. He's only 19, but again, I like what I see so far. But it's a
Hmm.
position of that we've got riches in right now. But that can all change. We're not to the end of this transfer window, and there's another one coming up in just a few months.
Right.
Um, and again, I don't know that we need to beat the dead horse about Anicio Cabral, but again, he's only 18. It's early, but I
Yeah.
am a little worried.
Exactly. Hmm.
Where is that? And that's I think the notes I put out. Where is that microwave player we saw with the first team
Yeah.
when he was called in? So um, we'll give it some time to see how it plays out. But we don't need to beat that too much to death. And then again, I think obviously we've had a signing today. Maybe we've had another one since I last looked. But the defense both in the B team and in the main team is a bit of an issue, especially
Yeah.
center backs. And I don't think there's going to be a whole lot more coming from the B team right now, especially if depending on where India falls. But João Fonseca, again, captain, 22 years old, solid center back for Liga
Hmm.
Two, great leader. I don't think he's first team quality
Okay.
at this point, from what I've seen. But I
Yeah.
mean, seems great force, stabilizing force on that team. Could he step in
Hmm.
a in case of emergency break glass situation? Probably, but otherwise, I think cupboard's a little bare. So I think we're going to have to continue to be active in the market
Hmm.
to keep the first team full. And then just some other names that we haven't really mentioned here that and some are kind of back and forth with the from the first team to the B team, and some are maybe nursing some injuries. But U.S. center back Joshua Winder,
Yeah.
he is
Josh
technically
Winder.
on
Yeah.
this team. I think he's
Yeah.
injured.
He is.
I
Yeah. He's expected back any day. I actually checked on him before we went live to
Yeah.
see what was up, and it says he's day to day now. So hopefully he'll be
So
back
I think
soon.
getting him some time is going to be good and see if we have something there. He's
Hmm.
been with the team now for
I think it's
what
his
2 or 3
third season now.
years.
Yeah.
He came to the U.S.
Yeah.
When we got to see him play down. He didn't play, but he was with the team during the
Yeah.
process.
Exactly.
So
Yep. Yep.
yeah, João Haig I think is probably going to be primarily with the first team, but he is still
Hmm.
kind of technically listed on the roster. And
Yep.
if he's not getting playing time with the main team, good to see him get some play. And then Miguel Figueiredo,
Hmm.
again, another one of those. It seemed like maybe he's more in that holding midfielder role, but he's got some speed. So I don't know exactly where he falls, but it was very interesting to see that how much they had to change the formation and the game plan once he came out of that. So where's his home going to be between the two teams?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, for me, the elephant in the room we got to discuss is Gabriel
Sure.
Indy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 18 years old, 4 million euro transfer in from Athletic Club in the Brasileirão B.
Brazil on B. Yep. The
He
Serbia.
appears to be injured. Well, obviously, I watched him get injured, but how soon is he coming back? But there's and we kind of talked about an article I was able to find from a couple of days ago that just really just seeing his praises. But the problem, as I read it immediately, is that he's a great player. He's not going to spend much time in the Portuguese league. Great.
Hmm.
So this is a trampoline player. I mean, there's another Enzo
That
Fernandez.
idea. Yeah.
But again, but where and when's he going to play?
Right.
Right. So we now have probably have our three center backs.
Yeah. We've
Um,
signed one now. So.
Manu, it appears that he's kind of our extra center back where we
Yep.
need him. I think Gabriel Indio definitely has some talent, but he's a guy that's going to want to play physical. He's going to
Hmm.
put himself in positions to get pushed around and get hurt. I think he needs to still beef up a little bit. He's
Hmm.
to be at the first with the first team. But that's going to be real interesting. I mean, that's a significant investment for a guy that age. Obviously, he
Yeah.
believes in his ability. The guys from the Director Geral feels very strongly that this is the guy that should be playing. But where does he get that time?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
It's got to be in the B team right now. I mean, I don't see
right.
any space for him and at 18 years old, it's more important that he's on the pitch playing than it is that he's sitting with the first team. He was always planned to go to the second leg at Hearts. That was always the plan. And apparently, he passed the medical after his injury. It was a contusion, a bruise. So he was deemed fit to play. He trained. He had already trained, I guess, 2 days after the injury. He trained with no limitations, from what I could find. And then they traveled. He was an unused substitute. He was again an unused substitute on Monday night at Casapia. But again, that roster is still being put together. So as players come in, obviously other pieces drop down. So I think he'll be someone to watch the next couple of weeks to see where he lands now. But hopefully, he heals up to 100%, can play, and like you said, can get himself a little bit under control, and play a solid role in this team. This is exactly what the B team exists for, is to provide that place for these guys to play and to develop. And the name is now escaping me of the other kid we had in this situation where we signed him from Brazil. He
Right.
ended up, I think, coming up for Roger Schmidt. Everybody, they just
Right.
the fan base turned on him as he struggled. He was really good. He was a lefty. His name is escaping me
Yeah, I
now.
know you're. Yeah, I can't remember the name right now either. But
Moratu, I think.
there you go.
That's
Yep.
it. And in the B team and in the youth league, he was great. And then he came up and he wasn't terrible, but then he
Right.
started playing as a left back in emergency cases. Then
Right.
he's in the middle, and eventually he ended up being sold. But
Yeah.
I hope that's not. I hope we're past this point of dangling this trampoline carrot for these players just to sign them so we can sell them on again. As soon as possible to turn a profit. That's really frustrating as a fan to watch. You don't see the full growth of players. There's a goalkeeper, playing out there that we gave up on at 19 years old. Went on to Roma, and is many say the best goalkeeper in the Serie A now. So
Right.
um, hopefully that he's handled with care. You're going to invest 4 million in an 18-year-old center back. Center backs don't normally break through at 18 years old onto first teams. That is one position where players tend to come through much later in their careers, and they usually have to go somewhere else to get those first team minutes and really get their feet wet at the top level before they can break into one of the big clubs. So I hope that the trajectory for him is one that is thought out, and that they follow a plan and don't just throw him out there to get burned at some point, and then
Well, and even Antonio Silva, again, a product of Seixal. I mean, the way that
Mm,
he was pushed forward
right.
and moved forward and deemed like the only reason he was able to stick around with Benfica as long as he has is because of that awful showing in the Euro.
Yeah,
A
it
couple of years
killed his
ago, he
market
gets
value.
benched,
Yeah,
and now his value is nothing, right? So he was able to stick around as long as he could. But even you could see that there was always this pressure on him to be the next big thing or to be the
yeah,
next big transfer. And even in the documentary that was done of
yeah,
Satan,
yeah.
he looks
Field
scared
of
to
Dreams or something
death,
like
right?
that.
But he
Yeah.
looks scared to death, and some of that's on him. And some of that's just his personality, and probably was forced upon this and wasn't quite ready for it. But we've especially a position like that, right, where
Hmm.
usually bad things happen. So
Yeah, and you don't have to go even too much further back from him to, what was his name now? That was partnering with Ruben Diaz, and a lot of us said he was even better than Ruben Diaz. And now, last I knew, he was on Estrela da Amadora last year, Ferro, and
yeah,
and again, there's a trend of, especially with these defenders, throwing them out there young.
right,
They make a mistake, which every young player is gonna make. And when you play in the back as a center back, your mistakes tend to lead to goals, like a goalkeeper.
yeah.
And then the pitchforks and torches come out, and the players eventually run from the club, and their career never really recovers. So I
No.
hope that Gabriel Indio is treated carefully and thoughtfully, and that he doesn't skip steps along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've kind of beat the Benfica B horse to death here a little bit. Maybe we can move on to
Move on to the
the
rest of the
results
week.
from the rest of match day two. You guys, you and the boys did a great job recapping
Hmm.
match day one last
Hmm.
week. But I guess we'll kind of move down. Starting on Friday, the Estadio Cidade Coimbra Academica again. You're kind of the talk of the league at this point, hosting
Yeah.
Feirense. Um, very interesting goal. The 36-minute poor pass out of the back from Feirense goalkeeper Diego Altu. leads to a ball is poked away and onto the feet of Academica captain Leandro Silva, who curls one in. Really nice shot from the edge of the box. That's on top 1-0 after 36. And this was, to me, again, a completely different match, but no less impressive than that 4-win drubbing of Schulz.
Right.
In the 41st minute, a careless challenge behind Academica linebacker Kaká, and he sees direct red for a heel stomp. So now, with 5 minutes left in the first half, they've got to regroup and figure out how to see this thing out or extend. And instead of them falling apart here, and folded was 50 plus minutes grit, determination, equalizer by Fidense in the 86th minute was ruled offside. But again, historic Academica, first year back in the Segunda Liga since 2021-22. And after filing for insolvency just 4 years ago, they look to be a serious threat to return to the Primeira Liga for the first time since 2015-16.
I saw notable Academica supporters on television.
Yeah,
I forget what the occasion was, but saying they didn't believe they'd ever see their team go back up. They didn't think they'd get back to the second level, much less back to the first division. They didn't think they could get back to professional football. They were in the Liga 3 and looking more likely to go down at that point than they were to come back up, and now they've turned things around. So credit to them, and they've really captivated their city too. Some of the crowds last year in the Liga 3, they really got large, and then you saw the traveling support that went to match day 1 at Schulz this season to make it almost a home game for them, all that distance away from home.
No, absolutely, and their social media is a great follow. They're super active. They're excited. I mean, if they're not playing Benfica and for somebody else, and I'm all over. They're awesome. They've been a lot of fun to watch. So, moving on to the next game on Friday, Sporting B versus Schulz. Again, Sporting B controlled the pace of the play in the first half. They showed a lot more quality, but not a lot of chances in front of goal for either side. Immediately after halftime, and again, Mauricio, anybody who's watching, I didn't watch the entirety of this match, and it felt a little slow at times. But again, they do take the lead immediately after halftime. A great effort by the 19-year-old Atanasio. Plays the ball off the defender at the edge of the area, scores from close range, and it's 1-0 to Sporting. Again, Sporting B appears to double their lead in the 68th. Offside call ruled out a goal by Samuel Schulz. Pretty tight. Again, that one angle that they have in Liga 2 makes it difficult. But Sporting continued creating chances. It hit the bar in the 82nd minute. Schulz also then hits the bar deep into stoppage time, but the Baby Lions hold on to a 1-0 win. And I think the story here is, after an embarrassing 4-1 loss at home to Academica, another poor showing against to me, less than exciting Sporting B. The side from Trás-os-Montes, it looks like it may be a struggle for them to stay out of the relegation zone this year. And Volzinha would have come in very handy for this. For this team this year, right? Amazing. And I know you were there for the match against Saudi Arabia, but the darling of the World Cup was plagued for this.
Yeah, really was.
A year ago. That's wild.
Hey, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's making more a month now at Colo Colo than he made all last season at Schulz.
But it's not about the money. It's not about the money. So it's not about the money. Hey, 40 years old, get your bag, bro.
Yeah, get it now. Exactly. How much time does realistically have left?
Moving on. In Torres Vedras, again, I have to double check some of these where they actually played, but Torres.
Some of the stadiums are suspended or whatever the term is.
Oh, and Amarante last weekend played in Penafiel. I know you asked a couple of times, but not Amarante. Sorry, La Rosa was playing in
La Rosa. They haven't played at home since they were promoted.
Right, and it looks like they're going to bounce around between different stadiums. But last
they've got like 4 different.
Penafiel. It's a mess.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. So, Torrens, Penafiel, Torrens, again, they continue to try and find their footing since winning the Taça, and they fell behind 2-0 after Penafiel goals from Max Svensson, who apparently is Spanish, and 31-year-old Spaniard Davo in the 9th and the 16th minute. But Torrens clawed one back in the 50th, goal from 33-year-old midfielder Costinha. And they appear sunk, though, after the 38-year-old Cape Verdean Stopira is shown a second yellow card in the 72nd, and Torrens are reduced to 10. But in the 90th plus 3, Denis Jean, 23-year-old Haitian forward, equalizes, and earns Torrens their first point of the young season. So hopefully for Torrens, this is the beginning of getting some confidence, and can kind of settle this thing down and just be at least be a fixture here and see how the season rolls through and work their way more into the promotion discussion than relegation, because that would just be a shame after that historic.
Yeah, after that.
Thassa win against Sporting and working through the Thassa to go immediately back down, I think would be unfair. But
You'd be sad, yeah.
Yep. So moving on to a game I most definitely did not watch, Portimonense versus Vizela at 3 a.m. Pacific time in Portimão.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not
That's
not
one of
getting
those 11 a.m. Portuguese kickoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, not doing it. But yeah, watching the highlights, Vizela went down a man in the 28th. VAR determined that 40-year-old Luis Rocha was the last man back defending. His yellow was overturned to a red, putting Vizela on the back foot early. And that was really about all that was to be done there. Algarvians capitalized soon after with a goal in the 34th. A 22-year-old Brazilian Edney played a beautiful cross from João Reis. Portimonense makes it 2-0 with a goal by substitute Yanis da Rocha in the 72nd off of a corner, and that was enough to see it out. 2-0 Portimonense over Vizela. Amarante against Lusitania Lourosa. This was a fun game to watch. So I was up and around to watch this one. Shadow of the Wildfires. It was 100 degrees. It was hot. I mean, it was rough. A lot of hydration breaks that actually should occur. But I like that we're still taking it case by case basis. Muse Super's got enough enough advertising going on. We don't have to stop every 20 minutes for more. But again, Amarante's first home match in their first season ever in Liga 2, and they really did play well and made a good effort. But again, a ridiculously entertaining match between these two scrappy sides. And the 29th minute, the lone goal in this match, very strange sequence. If you get a chance to go back and watch it, it's worth it. But Amarante feels they've earned a free kick well inside the Lourosa half, but referee Diogo Araújo signals play on as Lusitania Lourosa starts a counterattack that's quickly sent forward with a long ball that lands between an Amarante defender, Amarante's goalkeeper Didi, who is inexplicably rushing 20 yards outside of his box, passes everything that's happening, and Lusitania Lourosa striker João Sanches takes it and takes advantage of the comedy of errors, eases the ball into the empty net from 20 yards away, and it's 1-0 to Lusitania Lourosa, which will eventually be the final score. In the 70th, Lusitania Lourosa appears to double their lead. Brazilian midfielder Danny is able to cut off an errant pass just inside the Amarante end. He advances the ball to within 30 yards and slots it in the middle to one of my favorite players to watch in this league, former Benfica youth product, and I use that term very strongly, Paulite, who calmly slots it home. He was a youth player for Benfica from the age of about 6 to the age of 10. And on some smaller, clubs and has bounced around. Yeah. But he was deemed centimeters offside after VAR. But watching him in both these first two matches, I think he's a really interesting player to watch. A new player for Lusitania Lourosa. He's played for 4 different squads in the last 4 years, or maybe 5 and 5, and it's not just about promotion and relegation. So I wonder, is there a locker room issue? I don't know what the deal is, but he's for this level, is very creative, has good burst, great player to watch. So yeah, I guess next time you get a chance to watch him, he's just really talented, kind of fun to watch. But again, Lourosa sees it out, finishes 1-0 victory, and again, perfect 6 points through the first 2 weeks. More on track with what you were hoping to see from them last year.
Yeah,
they seem to have pulled some things together and put some pieces. But again, going to be a very entertaining squad to watch the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So Leixões Tondela, Matosinhos scoreless first half. Both sides narrowly missed and created some opportunities in front of goal. In the 57th, Leixões striker João Bica is taken down just inside the box by Christian Marques, and Bica steps up, finishing the job, putting Leixões up 1-0 in the 60th. Despite a combined 23 shots, 6 of which were on goal, Bica's goal stands alone, and Leixões overcomes last week's loss to Benfica B, and matches Tondela on the table with 3 points. So now this will be an interesting one. I really need to dig into them a little bit more. But Porto B, playing at their academy across the river from Porto Vila Nova de Gaia. They hosted France in a very satisfying match to watch for me, later in the day. Match completely dominated by France. They scored the midway point of the first half on a header from captain Claudio Falcão off a corner kick. Falcão's actually been a member of this side since 2020, 2021. Okay. And they take the lead 1-0 in the 22nd minute. Porto B equalizes in the 33rd after a number of scoring opportunities, and capped off by a beautiful curling shot from the left outside edge of the box by 20-year-old Thiago Andrade. Early in the second half, Ferenc then really pours it on and starts to pull away. And to me, showed just a gulf in class between these two sides. Started an absolute golazo, 49th minute from a free kick, set piece just outside the box from 32-year-old Brazilian midfielder Mateus to make it 2-1. The 53rd minute, it's a penalty for Ferenc, but it's missed by Mateus. Now, this is very ironic, and I watching as this match happened. It's Porto. It's their academy. What the most used part of the pitch has absolutely got to be the penalty spot. and the grass is just terrible. He steps up to take this shot. I swear the whole the penalty spot is the size of my desk, and he slips. The ball goes, I think, into the river. But you would think aside the Nady Taremi Memorial penalty spot has got to be taken care of better than that, guys. Like come on, Port, step up. It's ridiculous. But it didn't take it really didn't take long. 90th plus 5. Ferenc caps off an impressive display. Sun's beginning to set. Diego Poloni makes it 3-1 with a knuckling strike from 30 yards out to confuse the goalkeeper. Final score 3-1 to Ferenc. Again, two teams moving different directions. Port B sitting on 0 points and a -3 goal differential. -4 goal differential after two rounds. And then last night, again, probably the least, the Monday match from Oliveira das Mães between host Felgueiras. Again, this is Oliveirense is hosting a number, and I don't know what the situation.
A lot of these stadiums don't meet the minimum standards for professional games. So what happens is when they get promoted, apparently they've decided, a lot of teams, and I know, like with Casa Pia in the first division, it's been an issue of getting the permits to do the construction. The city of Lisbon's not been very helpful to them, and they've stalled and they've dragged the process of getting the permits. But in a lot of cases, from what I understand, from what people over there are saying, is these clubs have discovered it's a lot more financially doable to just rent someone else's stadium than do the necessary work to bring your own up to the standard. And that's why some clubs, especially the ones that have been in the second level less time, you see them kind of take this approach at first and try to stabilize themselves. I guess in theory they're trying to stabilize themselves in the top two levels before they invest, or they're waiting for an investor to, I guess, assist in coming up with the kind of funds needed to make the changes. I'm not sure, but you see smaller clubs having to move around, like they say, with their house on their back, is the Portuguese expression. And just
Casa das Costas, and I would say, but why that far is why I asked. Felgueiras is close,
I know.
Right? Why are they having to go all the way to
Last year, La Rosa played a home game in Rio Maior, so I mean, it's like.
It's well, and again, not getting too far off track, but Torreense, at least they figured out they could play the Europa League matches
in Leiria, right?
They were going to send them to
all the way to Algarve.
And I'm glad they felt like that was the first thing. It's like, why are they not playing in Leiria? So
fortunately, when Santa Clara qualified for the Conference League, had they got to the league phase, they were going to have to play they were going to use Algarve as their home European stadium as well. So a little different because it's an island. I mean, options are a little more limited, but still, it's something Portuguese football, to me, tends to just look the other way about, and not really address the fact that these clubs can't afford to bring their facilities up to the minimum standard for these top levels.
Yeah. So as far as the match, Felgueiras nearly takes the lead on 3 occasions in the first half, in the first half of an hour, but it's undone by the bar, the goalie's fingertips, and a ball that was probably 2/3 over the line and just went across. But AVS opens the scoring line in the 54th minute, screaming strike from the edge of the 18-yard box by Spanish midfielder Abdoulaye Keita, giving all 3 traveling AVS fans a 1-0 lead to celebrate. There were people wearing AVS kits.
Wearing the red and white stripes.
Didn't know they existed, but apparently. Anyhow.
Probably worked for the club.
Yeah, right. Probably. Anyway, after a brilliant 72nd minute save by the AVS keeper, an almost sure goal, Felgueiras does find an equalizer in the 87th minute by Thiago Ventura, who receives a cross that misses 4 defenders through the middle of the box. The side split the points 1-1. So again, that's the end of match day 2 and some of the stories to watch. Again, I think the main one here, Academica, I think they're for real, and I think that it'll be interesting to see if they can keep this momentum up, and work their way through any hardships and injuries throughout the season. But with the momentum they have, they sure appear to be for real. And then again, we've talked about how's Torrejan's going to handle European football while trying to get promoted or just avoid relegation.
Yeah,
I think this draw this week, hopefully settles some nerves, and
they'll know where they're going and who they're going to be hosting, and they can start to plan.
Absolutely. And on that, the bottom end of the table, can Chaves and Port B find some motivation to avoid relegation? I mean, I think it would be, as much as it would be fun to watch, Port B being relegated out of the Segunda Liga, I think would be an issue, especially for them. So, how do they manage that with their squad to try and at least keep them, out of the relegation zone?
You could see players sent down to keep them up. Right. We've seen the big team, the B teams, use that method towards the end of the season. So.
If Portuguese has enough players on the bench, they'll just move some over.
All of a sudden, they're gonna.
And then again, can Ferenc and Lusitania Lourosa, can they maintain their hot form, or are they going to come back to the pack? And then we've talked about a little bit, how many teams are going to be playing away from their home pitch? Are there going to be stadiums coming back online, or are Torrejan's, Lusitania Lourosa, and Felgueiras is going to be destined to play all their matches away from home? And how does that play into, or especially you got a couple of those that probably feel like they're competing for promotion? How are they going to manage that? That's not super easy. So you make a run down the table. After two matches, obviously a long way to go. Academica and Ferenc sit first and second. Academica with a +4 goal differential. Ferenc with a +3, sitting in the promotion spots. Lusitania Lourosa also on a +3, as well as Portimonense. So both battling out for that qualification for the promotion playoff. Benfica B, Sporting B also on 6 points with a +2 goal differential. Leishoinch is well, and again, I think I must have found one of your tables that you had the other day. We got two of them on 3 with a 0 and a -1 in the middle. So I think we got Leishoinch and Tondela at 7 with 3 points, 0 goal differential. Vizela with a -1 and 3 points. Felgueiras with 2 draws and obviously a 0 goal differential, sitting in 10th with 2. Torrejan's, Penafiel, AVS at 11th, 12th, 13th, and Ferenc at 14th, all on 1 point, -1 goal differential. Amarante comes in 15th, just above the relegation line, actually tied with União de Leiria at 15th and 16th for that qualification for the relegation playoff. And as discussed, Chaves and Porto B both 0 points and a -4 goal differential, needing to get some things going in order to avoid relegation. Moving on to next week, again, probably won't go down the entire match schedule, but a couple to really keep an eye on. Benfica B versus Portimonense on Friday, both on 6 points. Be really interesting to see where we're at, with Benfica B. Where is their squad going to lay out, and is Portimonense as good as shown through the first couple of match days? And then Academica at Tondela also playing on Friday. I think there's a lot to learn there. Lusitania Lourosa versus Torrejan's, I think is also very, very interesting. Two good squads. I think Lusitania Lourosa, this is where they really get tested to see if they can maintain this.
Yeah.
This as they come up against some of the better teams. And then Porto B at Ferenc. If Porto B can't take points from Ferenc, and if they drop all 3, I think then they're going to really have to do some internal looking on where they move players around. But if they can bounce back, get 3 points, and just settle into more of the development plan, then maybe it goes fine. But I think they're going to really have to do some internal searching if they drop 3 to Ferenc. That's all I've got for this week. I will hopefully we can we'll try and turn this into a weekly thing. We'll kind of see how schedules allow. But
sure.
This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate getting together and getting a little chat with you. We got a chance to watch one of the Benfica matches in Orlando together.
Yeah, we were in the supporter section.
In the supporter section, with the Diabs and the No Name Boys, and that was definitely an experience I'll never forget. And we were both in the house for the Boca Juniors match. But that was again for completely different reasons. Once in a lifetime,
absolutely.
But there was no way in hell we were going to find each other in that.
No.
So again, it's great to be on with you. Hope we can make this a weekly thing, and really enjoying watching the second league and seeing how it plays out the rest of the season.
All right. I look forward to next week then. And thank you again, Geoff. This was a lot of fun. Thank you to the people that contributed as well, Mauricio and Dave, watching, and everybody else, watching live or that are going to be listening in the future on the podcast feed. It'll be out tomorrow morning. By the time you're listening on the podcast feed, it's already obviously out. Um, but we will be back. I think this can be our Wednesday night programming, if that continues to work for you, Geoff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as long as we can slot it in, we'll make her work. So
All right,
really appreciate the time.
all right. Thank you, everybody. It's the Mr. Mike Augustino signing off, and for Geoff Schulz. We'll see you next week.